I think the one that was most interesting for me is trash. Okay, why? There's two different companies that fit in the trash category. I want to talk about both of them, but just why is trash in the David Gardner rule breaker universe of why is this something that jumps out to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, we need to get rid of it, right? We need to collect it. We need to process it. One of my biggest pet peeves of all, and I've done full podcasts just around pet peeves, but one of my very biggest is littering. I think that there is zero excuse for anybody to litter. I don't care what culture you're from, what neighborhood you're in. I think there is zero. You are not allowed, in my mind, to litter. I always love it seeing the $500, fine if you litter. I'm not sure anybody ever gets charged for that, but I really, really don't like littering and trash. I love that we're cleaning it up for profit out there. The companies that you're mentioning are just great companies. Isn't it awesome to think that we live in a world where people go to work every day cleaning up for others and get paid for it, and actually paid enough that they can pay a dividend and grow great companies over time? So I'm really grateful for this. And I think, Nick, I realize it doesn't sound that exciting. It's not like biotechnology, genomics. We're talking about trash, but I'm all about what's a better world, right? What's the world that you and I want to live in? I've often said in the past, make your portfolio reflect your best vision for our future. Well, certainly an area, a niche, as you're mentioning, that I favor is a cleaner world. And so these companies do that.
Yeah, so the first one we'll bring up Waste Management. So the second most recent rec among the companies we'll talk about, recommended in June 2019. One of the largest waste management recycling companies in the world, controls about 20% of the market. What can you tell us about how this company, I mean, that may give it away to you right there, 20% of the market in an industry that is absolutely necessary. But what jumps out to you about Waste Management as a stock for folks to invest in?
Yeah, well, I would, so yes, all of those things are true. And that WM logo on trucks in my neighborhood, yours, and lots of other people's too, I really think that the company has kind of ensconced itself in our society. And I think it's just really well protected from competition, in the sense that it's doing work people don't generally want to do, and it's doing it at scale. And I think it has that brand piece. I realize this is slightly overstating. It's not like an Apple or Netflix brand, but I really, waste management isn't my favorite phrase to say either. But WM, I think it's worth really respecting what they have done. I think Wayne Huizenga, by the way, was one of the co-founders of this company. The guy who ended up owning all the Florida sports teams and doing a lot of good work. Besides, he's no longer with us, but part of his legacy, which reminds me that so often these companies are created by real visionary types of people. And to do that from decades ago, and this company be thriving today, is a great sign. So I really just, they are a big dog in this field. And I think we're all well rewarded typically for finding these companies. I will mention, Nick, thanks again to your diligence, that the stock has not been a great performer. I mean, it's basically flat with where I recommended it in June of 2019. So we're coming up almost 2 years now, and the market's up 35%, and we're flat. So that's disappointing to me. But you know what? Not everything wins all the time. I like this kind of company for the next couple decades.
Yeah, I don't think the demand for the services they provide aren't going down anytime soon. So we'll see what happens next with this company. The other one that popped out to me in this trash subsector was a company I had never heard of until I started doing some preparation for this podcast. That's Darling Ingredients, ticker DAR. David, how did you find this company?
So I'm glad you asked. So I found this company in 2012. And one of my favorite things about the Motley Fool, something that I helped create, is Motley Fool caps. And I'm assuming a lot of our podcast listeners would be familiar, and a lot of our Motley Fool Live fans would be familiar, but not everybody. So I just want to make it clear that caps.fool.com is a free site on the internet. It's part of the Motley Fool, and you can come in and rate stocks. So you can thumb up a stock because you think that stock will beat the market, or thumb it down. Sometimes if you have a bad consumer experience, like you waited too long in line somewhere, you can go right on caps and thumb it down, and it makes me feel better. But you're ultimately making calls about the stock. Do you think it's going to beat the market or lose to the market? And either way, we'd love to hear from you. And a lot of people have contributed to that over time. And you get rated, you get scored against everybody else playing caps. So it's an addictive game for people who really love the stock market. Well, one of the small features of caps, Nick, is you get a stock of the day. And there's just a new company a ticker symbol each day. If you check your caps page, if you're signed up for caps. And so I have used that over the years to create lists of companies I hadn't heard of that I could research further. And I have culled those over the course of time. And a lot of my research process is to go through my caps stock of the day suggestions. Again, this is just the service suggesting a stock that it thinks I might be interested in. And Darling Ingredients, earlier that same year of 2012, popped up on my radar. And I looked at, and I had never heard of it either. But Nick, you've got a little bit about the business to make it clear why maybe we all could have known, because this company's been around for 100+ years.
Yeah, it's the nation's leading provider of rendering, recycling, and recovery solutions to the nation's food industry. Processes 10% of the world's inedible meat byproducts and is the largest collector and processor of used cooking oil in North America. Okay.
Incredible.
Why? Okay, you hear that description. Why is that something that folks should be excited about investing in? What's kind of the investment case here?
Well, it's in this same niche that we're talking about. It's talking about cleaning up the world. And actually, you have a great stat here that you let me know about ahead of time. I'd forgotten this, but basically for every pound of meat produced, there's 1 pound of inedible meat produced. And so what do we do with that? And how do we process it? What about all that cooking oil? So this is a company that's helping clean up restaurants and kitchens, anybody who slaughterhouses. I mean, it's one of those companies you wouldn't otherwise have heard of unless you're a stock market fan and maybe a Motley Fool Stock Advisor member, because members have owned the stock, if they listened to us 9 years ago, for 9 years and counting. It's ended up being a pretty good performer. Very happy. That always makes me feel good when we're beating the market. But, from my standpoint, this is one of those companies that most people will never have heard of. Darling Ingredients, ticker symbol DAR. But those are some of my favorite stocks to find, especially when they outperform the market over long periods of time.
Yeah, David, I just wanted to give you a couple numbers. So the part of the really exciting thesis for Darling Ingredients is they take all this, all these byproducts, and you can use it to produce different ingredients. So one of the things that they have is they own a 50% stake in Diamond Green Diesel, which is a partnership with Valero, one of the biggest refiners in the world. And they produce renewable diesel here in the United States, the most economic U.S. facility, largest in the U.S., second largest in the world. So back when, around the time David first recommended this stock, they had an additional production capacity of 160 million gallons a year. In 2021, they have plans to expand that production capacity to 675 million gallons a year in 2021. So increasing it another 400 million. They also have look through to 2023. They plan to open a new facility in 2023 where they're going to increase their total annual production to 1.2 billion gallons of renewable diesel. So that's almost a 10x for when they first developed that facility, almost 10 years ago. So really incredible growth, a little over 10 years whenever that facility is done. So just incredible growth. And you can only imagine, obviously, this huge push towards more greener fuels, that there's going to be lots more demand for that type of renewable diesel going into the future. So a company that's had a lot of success, a lot of growth, but it looks like even more growth ahead in a niche that I don't think anybody is going to come take away the beef tallow market from them.
And that's part of the beauty of a great industrials company, right? They're doing something that's hard. It might be lower margin. It's often unattractive, but darn it, if they're doing it and doing it well, they are providing real value to society. They may be overlooked. They're certainly not on anybody's hot stock list. One other thing I have to say about Darling Ingredients, Nick, is if you and I were having this conversation 1 year ago, I wouldn't have been that happy about Darling Ingredients, because the stock, after holding it for 7 years, from 2012 to 2019, it was basically flat with when I'd first recommended it. So all of the appreciation, it's now a triple. It's now more than tripled our money and is beating the market here 9 years later. But all of that appreciation has happened in the last 12 months.